Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GST that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And as many of you know, GST stands for Get Shit Done. It ain't about the talk, it's about the action. So with that, I'd like to introduce my incredible guest. It's great having you all here today. So we explore innovators from around the world. This show is top global startups. And I'm thrilled to have one with me today, Stefan Avram, who's a co-founder and chief customer officer of WunderGraph, a company pioneering the future of API collaboration and scalability. With WunderGraph recently raising $7.5 million in Series A funding and positioning itself as a challenge to Apollo in the GraphQL Federation space, Stefan has been at the forefront of redefining how enterprises build, scale, and govern their API ecosystems. Beyond the text, Stefan has a passion of building strong partnerships, whether with co-founders, customers, or teams, and believes deeply in bridging Conway's law for true enterprise scalability. So with that, I'd like to bring him on board. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Good. So I see you went to school at Phillips. Where is that located, by the way? Because that name comes.
So it's Dr. Phillips. It's like literally, if you look at Universal in Central Florida, it's right next to it. So I grew up in the Central Florida area.
I see. Okay. How was that? How'd you like growing up there?
It's interesting. Orlando, one of the jokes we have is that if you grow up there, you never have to pay for tickets because you always know somebody that works at Disney or Universal. And then the high school that I went to was directly across the street. So whenever you were taking a test, you could hear Jurassic Park playing in the back or like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So you could always hear the music playing. So it was interesting.
Now, did you ever have one of those tours where you go under Disney and look around at the way it really operates? Did you ever have
Of course. Yeah, like they would always take you and show you how basically they have it by like 10 by 10 underwater hall or underground hallways where they can fit carts to go through. And it's why you never see like a character in the wrong part of the park.
Wow, that's amazing. I always wanted to see that. I love, Disney. Ever since I was a kid, I just love that place actually. Disneyland and Disney World. So Stefan, let's start with your journey. What drew you first into the world of APIs? And then obviously, scalability of the enterprise is truly important. What drew you to that world?
So I wasn't like naturally drawn to it. When I was in college, I played at Rollins, like a top Division II program, and they had a great feeder program into Orlando City. And so my plan was to play professional soccer, and I was quite good. I signed a homegrown contract for a company or for a team called Tuscan, and then my senior year, I tore my ACL. And so luckily, I was studying computer science and economics. And there was a good startup in the Orlando area. I think they raised a Series C recently, but they're a great startup and I joined them. And I don't know, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I met one of the founders while we were talking coffee or whatever. We just started talking about starting companies. And I was like, oh, but it's so hard. You need this or you need that. And I like what you say about GST, get shit done. He's like, no, you don't. You just need to start. Just do something, find a pain point and just start. He's like, I was a lawyer. And like, look, I've sold and built 5 companies. 4 of them were unicorns. And I was like, well, how do you do it? He's like, you just do it. And I was like thinking about that. And I was like, huh. And then at the holiday party, he said, listen, like, I don't think you're going to learn a lot here as an analyst. What you should do is go start a company. And if you don't quit next week, I'm going to fire you. And I was like, no way, that's all talk. 1 week later, I get fired. And then 1 week after that, COVID hits. And so he calls me and he's like, hey, listen, bad timing, but go figure it out. And so basically, I started jumping around startups. And then I met my co-founder. And one of the things I really loved about APIs was just basically APIs are the plumbing of software companies. They connect all the data together. They allow you to connect software companies together. And especially now, and given your background with AI, like there is no AI without APIs because APIs can provide that context. And so I've fallen in love with it. But my route there wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go build the best API company. It was, wow, you can just start companies. And I went and I found some co-founders and we did that.
So, look at it. So one of my friends is Jacques Fu. So he's from Orlando, Stacks. I don't know if you know Stacks.
They were originally Fat Merchant, and then they were the first unicorn out of Orlando. I know the other two founders as well, but he was the CTO there.
Yeah, he's actually a partner of mine on a project. We actually work together very, very closely together. So we have some things that we do regularly. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great. And yeah, I met Jacques Fu. Actually, he and I met because I was looking for other people that had $1 billion exits. And so I came across him, and being from Silicon Valley, I figured I wanted to spend more time in Florida, but it was kind of, well, you know what it's like, right? It's got a little bit desolate here sometimes compared to Silicon Valley. You don't find the same kind of people.
Yeah, that's the thing I struggle with. So like Stacks, or what they used to be called Fat Merchant, that's the only unicorn, the first unicorn out of Orlando, and it took it till what, I think 2022. And then from that point, I'm in Miami, so I can tell you like I'm boots on the ground. But I spent a lot of time in Frankfurt where my co-founders are, San Francisco, New York. And yeah, the energy is completely different in Silicon Valley as well as in New York. You can butt shoulders in a coffee shop with unicorn founders. You won't be able to do the same in Miami.
When I started Findo, so I started my company in Menlo Park, and sitting next to me is Otter. So Sam Liang at Otter. Robin Hood was next to me also. So Robin Hood started in the same facility as I did. Musically Tech Talk. This was not that long ago. It was 2017, 2016. Musically and MariaDB. We all started in the same office. Actually, we used to talk, and I remember Sam came over and showed me. It was called like a Sense On or something before Otter was Otter, and he was saying, "What do you think?" And we were going back and forth. And now I just had lunch with him, lunch/dinner out in California. He's at 100 million ARR already.
Yeah.
Right? It's taken off. So, but I've been through it a number of times, and you see it. I remember a few years ago, I met my friend Jensen, and this is before Nvidia was really taking off. And now look at, he's worth what? The company's worth $3 or $4 trillion today.
Yeah, and that's the difference with Silicon Valley. Like, I'm always joking around. So we have an office here in the WeWork in Brickell, and I get in around 7:30. It's empty. It's empty till 10 o'clock or 10 a.m. By 4 o'clock, it's empty again. And then when I'm in Silicon Valley, same thing in the WeWork. I'm there, and by 7:30, I'm late. And then to leave, most people don't even leave. So it's night and day, the difference.
Out there, it's like everything we do. And so I'm there all the time, by the way. So I'll be out there next week. I'll be with I got invited to speak. I'll be on a panel at Draper's for Tim Draper at the Hero
Cool.
University. And last week I was out there with the Berkeley folks doing it. And then it's just, you get the energy, you get connected, and it's tough to get away from. But there's another thing too, Stefan, it's really interesting, is because that energy goes around the world. So when you take it up a couple levels and you had a couple unicorns, that same energy is what I feel in Nigeria. That's that same energy when I go to Seoul in 3 weeks. It's interesting because the connection points expand, and it's a giant network. It's very interesting. We can talk about that after the show, but yeah, no, I feel the way you do about it. So at 27, you've co-founded a company making waves in enterprise infrastructure. What mindset shifts were most critical for you along the way?
So we started it when I was 25, and then we went to a period where we almost died. And I always tell my friends this in like startups, is that like startups will age you. And so I learned a lot in 3 years. We went from 4 co-founders to 10 people, and now we're about 32 people. And we also have like very important contracts with some of the top enterprises in the world, for example, like eBay or Paramount, SoundCloud, things like that. You learn a lot. The biggest thing that I'm learning right now is I try to fire myself at least once a month. So what would happen if I just died, and what would happen to the company? So how can I make sure that the team can keep going and managing that? Second is hiring great people and slightly getting on the way. I like to micromanage up to a certain point where that way I feel comfortable with them. And then I also like to be in the weeds with them. So chief customer officer, doing everything from pre-sales, post-sales to customer success and everything, making sure that's all aligned. But I still like to cold call and get customers on the phone. I still like to hop on sales calls and everything. So I try to fire myself, and I really try to make sure that I'm managing the team in the most effective way. And then the third one is strategy. So how can we start in this niche of GraphQL Federation and expand out? And so I spend a lot of time thinking about what I should be working on versus just kind of doing something right away. And then when I can't figure out, I always think like action leads to information. So I'll hop in, go talk to our customers and things like that. But a lot of different mindset shifts from when we started 3 years ago, especially to when I feel like I've learned so much. But it's funny. As I learn more, I really realize how much I have so much more to learn. So it's fun.
No, that's that's knowledge, right? You get down through it, you know that you don't know. And
Exactly.
so WunderGraph recently raised a 7 point. By the way, the questions are coming. I have 14 large language models that are actually listening to our conversation, generating questions. So these questions are coming from it. It's very interested in the conversation with you. So it's something that we built. Anyhow, it said WunderGraph recently raised 7.5 million Series A with backing from eBay Ventures and Karma Ventures. How will this funding accelerate your vision, and how fast do you think you can get there?
It's a great question, and it's kind of cool that the LLMs are generating this. But yeah, one of our biggest customers, eBay, they decided to like invest in us, and then Karma Ventures, our amazing Series A leads, also double down on that. All the funding's going into innovating on our new product, which is WunderGraph Hub. This is like the command central for like API collaboration. You could think of it as like bringing Miro to API design and governance. And then from that is really just doubling down on this new product from a go-to-market motion. So sales, marketing, BDRs, and getting this in front of as many eyeballs as possible. If you look historically at the API management space, it's kind of boring. You know, you have Kong, you have WSO2, you have MuleSoft that got acquired by Salesforce a while ago. And we kind of want to bring that Steve Jobs, that Jovi type innovation to it, that, hey, APIs are fantastic. There is no AI without APIs. And here's a product where it makes APIs really beautiful to work with.
You described the Federation as a two-horse race between WunderGraph and Apollo. What makes your approach stand out for enterprises?
Um, well, I mean, there's like a spicy answer, and then there's the politically correct answer. So one of the I'll mix the two is that Apollo did some great work. They've been around since 2011, and they really opened up the space to GraphQL Federation. But they got cocky, and that created the opportunity for us. And so we came in with the open source offering. And one of the things that I think that happens when you get cocky is that you kind of forget to listen to your customers. And we really, really listen to our customers. And the things that they're telling us isn't about performance. They're telling us, hey, we have all these teams that need access to our APIs. And so what we hear is governance. So we've doubled down on governance features, role-based access control, groups, features like that. Also, they have features where they want to iterate and test in an ephemeral environment. So we created a feature called feature flags, which allow you to spin up APIs that kind of mock what would happen in a real production setting. And so that's fantastic. And then on the third part is the collaboration piece, is that a gateway is a gateway. Everybody has a gateway. You can make it more performant, but at the end of the day, what really helps is, okay, how can we make teams work together? Federation is fantastic for that, but it doesn't solve the collaboration piece. So with those three pieces in mind, we really focus and tailor towards the enterprise. And then on the sales side, like we're fully open source. So if you want a big company like Apple to try you out, they just run you through one of their security audit tools. It says it's good to go from the NPM package. You can start or using it right away. But if you're an Apollo, okay, well, now I have to submit a request to use a closed source SaaS, and already I've lost the race there. But that's kind of the key differentiators between us and Apollo in this race.
Could you break down what bridging Conway's law really means and why it's so critical for enterprise scalability?
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite laws that I don't think typically people like know about. So the law, in like paraphrase, is basically that your architectural setup will mimic your organizational setup. So what that means, if you think of a startup, they have a single monolith, one GitHub repo, and they have 4 or 5 people contributing to it. But if you look at how companies are typically structured, is eventually that monolith starts to break apart. And what they have is a microservice architecture. Google tries to solve this problem with their super big monolith, but where they've done performance optimizations. But basically, if you look at somebody's architectural setup, you can kind of see how their organization is set up. And if they have a big microservice architecture setup, a lot of information gets lost because the bigger the company, they don't actually know which team is working on what service, which API is powering this. They have API sprawl. And if you look at the architectural setup, you're like, okay, well, this actually isn't a technology problem. This is a communication and collaboration problem. And if you can make enterprises faster, if you can make enterprises make decisions faster, if you can allow them to reduce tech debt, allow them to actually understand who at the company owns this part of the domain, what you're doing is kind of the promise of AI, which is, hey, we can help automate forces together. We can improve time to market, a lot of things that we can do. And you really have all that knowledge already. It's just through APIs, but you just don't have a way to bridge it. And so that's what we're trying to focus on, is that collaboration piece, which is, hey, we have all this data about our company. How can we actually use it and collaborate with it? And so that's Conway's law, and we're looking to try to solve it with our product.
So now it's asking me, it says, okay, great, Stefan. So how do you balance building powerful features with ensuring that they will actually drive measurable customer outcomes?
So our roadmap is 20% vision and 80% customer feedback. And one of the things is before we build any feature, we make sure that it's replicable. So sometimes startups will get into this thing where they get a huge enterprise customer and they're like, can you build this? Can you build that? But they never stop and ask, hey, if I build this for eBay, can I give this to everybody else? And what we do is we make sure that we do these like technical advisory boards. So we sit with our top enterprise customers, we sit with our smallest customers as well, and we see those features that we're building out if there's a common denominator for it. I don't think you can A/B test your way to product market fit, but this way of A/B testing with the product's feedback, it's a really great way. And then the other 20% is our vision for how we envision the world should be.
So you've been remote first from day one, while many companies are pushing employees back to the offices. How do you think remote work shapes innovation and culture?
I made a little video about this today. I think in your early 20s, you should be in office. There's nothing worse to your career than being fully remote. You get some benefits, but for your mental health and everything, I fully think it's a nightmare. I have an office that I go to here at the WeWork. I go every single day unless I'm doing a podcast because I like my home studio. Being remote first is extremely difficult. We balance it though, because we're able to hire top senior talent. And if you know about developers, top senior talents prefer to be at home. So we don't want to limit our pool by hiring directly in Miami or Frankfurt where we're at. So the way we segment that is we do probably once a month, I go see my co-founders in Germany, or they come here. So we see each other. So we stay with that close relationship. Twice a year, we do a company retreat at a very cool place. Like in November, we're going to the Canary Islands. Everyone's coming together. It's a whole week of just strategy, getting to know each other. And then probably every 3 months, we do a working retreat. Hey, we're releasing this new feature. The key developers that are going there, they get flown out by us. They go to Germany where our CTO is, and they work for a week. And so we're able to segment that part. And then on the culture part, what we think is culture is who you hire, who you fire, and who you promote. So that's how we build that culture, by demonstrating the values. We have good values, but values shouldn't just be written on a piece of paper. You should actually demonstrate them. And it's easy to demonstrate them in a remote environment, which is, hey, run through walls to get things done. That's one of our key values. And if in a remote environment, that means, hey, going, grabbing Gary, bringing him into a call, hey, putting a type up into Slack, and actually demonstrating I'm doing everything I can to get my to-do list done. So that way we can push the company forward.
So, what principles guide you in building trust and collaboration across distributed teams?
One of them is always assume best intentions. I think it's called Poe's law, but basically on Slack, like sarcasm and the way you word things can definitely get misconstructed. So we always say assume best intentions. And if you're not sure about something, just hop in a huddle or just hop in a quick Zoom call. So that's a really important one. The second one is be shamelessly annoying. Like in a remote environment, you can't just go walk up to somebody and grab them. I remember when I first started my career, I had a question. I'd grab my laptop, go sit by the senior engineer, and we would hammer it out. You can't do that now. Sometimes you hit them on the call. They might not be there, time difference. So our second key value that is really important is be shamelessly annoying. Ping somebody 50 times if you need something to get them done. Huddle them, call them, do whatever you need to do to get them in the room with you, whether it's a virtual room, but do whatever you need to do. Be shamelessly annoying, and it's okay to be annoying.
As you're scaling, how do you maintain the startup agility while bringing governance and structure for large enterprise? I mean, we've taken companies from $0 to billion-dollar exits, and we've gone down through it. And, for me, when you start having meetings, that's when it's time to do something else, right? But it's a challenge, right? As you go down through, there's a lot of different people come in and a lot of different stages of companies, and they think in a lot of different ways. Right.
Yeah, spot on.
And so how do you balance it?
So we steal this from Sam Lambert. He's the founder of PlanetScale, a very successful database company, which is experts leading experts. So we don't hire for middle managers. We don't hire for people that are just good people. We hire for experts, whether that's experts in sales, experts in marketing, and experts should lead experts. And we tell them, hey, Could have this been an email? Could have this been a quick huddle? How can we lower the amount of meetings that we have? So we have a leadership meeting once a week where we align on stuff from the leadership point of view. We have a show and tell every 2 weeks, so that way you can kind of bring that team working together, a little bit of that serendipity. But we try to reduce the amount of meetings that we have. It's not perfect. We're working towards it, obviously, but we really try to remove the meetings for the sake of having meetings. Also, if you're not getting any value, I think we stole this from Musk at a meeting, you're free to drop without judgment. Hey guys, I'm not contributing here. I'm going to drop. I have some things to work on. So that's how we try to keep it within a remote environment.
You shared customer success. So this, by the way, this is amazing with my multi-agent LLMs. By the way, I'm a clinical psychologist, so I built empathy and compassion into the models. So when we're doing this, it can be very interestingly personal. But it said you shared some customer success stories like acoustic saving 178,000 engineering costs and schema work dropping from 10,000 lines to a visual UI. Can you walk me through one story that really captures the value of WunderGraph?
Oh, that's a good one. It really depends though, like on the value part. I think one of my favorite is probably, I think SoundCloud. So SoundCloud and acoustic is also a very good one, but the LLM didn't pick on the build times, which was they had build times of 10 minutes in acoustic. We were able to bring that down to 30 seconds. And the reason why is typically companies will start their federation journey and they think that they can build it themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that because engineers want to build. They see something and it's like, oh, like I can build that, no problem. And then the issue is that you actually don't know what you don't even know. And you slowly start to enter into this race of like, oh, I didn't think of that edge case. I didn't think of that use case. And they build a Frankenstein schema registry or some type of platform that's supposed to mimic ours. And one memorable one was SoundCloud. So SoundCloud is the creators of the BFF framework. They're also the creators of Prometheus. They're a very smart technical company, very talented engineers, some of the best that I've ever worked with. And they had a setup that was actually quite good. Like it was actually quite great. But one of the things that they said is that, hey, we're maintaining this with like 5-6 engineers. Like it's a great engineering thing, but we value our time. This actually isn't contributing anything to the business value of SoundCloud. It's actually taking it away because we want to manage it. And so we chatted with them, and within a week, we had a decision, and they decided to migrate over to our stack. So they migrated so they could free up their engineering time. But because the engineers were so talented, they actually told us some great features we could implement together. And so we created a great collaboration. We added features that we also thought were beneficially great. And it really went from a company that was very smart, and they saw the value in what we did, and they very quickly did a quick migration. And one of the benefits that we saved them, I think, was we saved them over $250K because of the way that we've orchestrated our setup versus what they had in there. So not only did we save them 5 developers, we saved them $250K in infrastructure costs. And that was one of my favorite ones also because I use SoundCloud every day. And so every time you press play and you see the music flowing or you use the app that's powered by our product.
So beyond APIs, what emerging technologies excite you most right now?
Of course, AI. Like I think LLMs are just absolutely fantastic. I think we're definitely in a bubble though, because a lot of companies are forming and just wrapping ChatGPT, which is the process of it.
And Stefan, back in 2016, if you look in TechCrunch, you'll see me on stage. I was in San Francisco, and I was talking about AI. In fact, David Yang was my partner. He was my CTO. And we started the first generative AI company, Pre-Transformer Models. And I remember talking about it then, how the world was going to shift. It's in TechCrunch in July. I raised $7 million in 3 months at a seed level, by the way, $7 million seed round. And I was talking about it then. The problem that we have is infobesity. Think about it. In Stefan's world, you got about 300,000 items in your personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. Stefan, you have more information in your personal cloud than the entire web. The problem is Stefan's world's following the same trajectory. By that, I mean doubling every year. In 5 years, with the Internet of Things, you're going to have 10 million. I mean, think about it. Last 3 weeks, how many times, Stefan, has somebody said, did you get my email? Where'd you send it? Which one? Right?
Yeah.
And then and now you don't even check. You just say, will you send it again? Because we're so inundated with information, we can't find things. It's not that it doesn't exist. So the secret, the tools, these hypersensitive, hyper-personalized AI tools we're using, multi-agent, multimodal large language models, are going to be there with the capacity, unconditional positive regard, love, like your grandmother, are going to be, they're the future. I mean, I'm using one right now, right? Using them right now.
No, I would totally agree.
You know, for developers or founders listening today, what advice would you give them if they're trying to build a scalable, collaborative system? And what advice, as a startup entrepreneur, if you could have one thing, what would you tell them is the most important?
It's a good one. I think one of the advices I would give to developers now, though, is don't get left behind on the AI train. You should be trying out every model. You should be trying out the tools, Claude Code, Cursor. You should be topping Raycast, all this AI tooling, because it's exactly what you said. A lot of good use is coming from that. All of our developers are using it. It's helping with it. And if you can become a good developer and then a good developer that knows how to use AI, you're more or less unstoppable. And so for developers, I would say don't get left behind on the AI train. Definitely incorporate the tools in your workflow and really start using them. And then as for just entrepreneurs in general, I think I made some good steps in my career. I don't still consider myself a success. I haven't had an exit, but we're profitable, we're growing. You know, we raised the Series A, things are good on that part. But the biggest thing I can add is I think Jensen also said this, is like your tolerance to pain is that really the most important trait that I've ever seen is grit and determination. Like, you know, something goes wrong in the same day, you land the biggest customer, and then your biggest customer also churns. And it's like, well, how do you deal with that, like super high and super low? And I think as a founder, you can train yourself, whether that's sports or doing high level activities or things like
Well,
that.
there's
But
another way, Stefan. You know, I had 2 full body stem cell replacements.
see,
And so I've had 100 million stem cells put in my body. And it absolutely changes things because your stress ability to withstand stress goes dramatically up.
that's what I mean. And so, like, some things like that, like I had a traumatic knee injury, like twice. My co-founder, he also had a traumatic injury. And those type of things, like your ability to withstand stress or just grit or determination, if I put it as two words, that's the key, probably the biggest indicator of success. And I fully believe that, because every time I look at a successful entrepreneur, you can trace back when they were determined and when they had grit and how they survived.
Um, You've been there, been there. At 21, I started my first company, and let me tell you, it was a lot of stress, brother. I had $1 million out in personal loans one time because I rolled the dice and it worked. But it was, you know, there's sometimes winds move in different directions, but we got through it. Listen, we're coming. Closing thoughts, Stefan. We're coming up to the top of the show, and how do people get a hold of you?
So people can get a hold of me on Twitter. It's Stefan TMD. They can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on both of them. Also email. So Stefan at WunderGraph.com. Those are probably the three best avenues to get in contact with me.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And I want to thank all my audience for joining us one more time. GSD presents Top Global Startups. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. And Stefan, if you want to stay on after the show, we can talk for a few minutes.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Gary. Thanks, everybody.